Hello everyone, Curious Corduroy here, and today we're going to be checking out a brand new video interview with Naoki Hamaguchi, where he's going to talk more about Final Fantasy VII Revelation, which still doesn't feel real. I think a lot of us are still processing what we saw at Summer Game Fest because they showed us a lot. But what they showed us in the grand scheme of things is a very small percentage of what that game is going to be. But Hamaguchi is going to talk more about some of the changes from Rebirth to Revelation, some of the changes with things like mini games, and how exactly the fit system or the job system is going to work in this game. And Hamaguchi is someone who has clearly been wanting to talk about this stuff for a while, and now he's getting the opportunity to. So that's what we're going to do in today's video and see what Hamaguchi has to say. Alright, so today's video is coming to us from the folks over at GameSpot from their YouTube channel. I'll leave a link in the description down below if you would like to check out just the video on its own, so you don't gotta hear me yapping. I also have subtitles enabled. If you're someone who watches these types of videos, please let me know in the future if you like having the subtitles on the screen, or if you would rather I turn them off and then you can just activate them when you watch the video on your own. I just want to make sure these videos are as accessible as possible for whoever gets to watch them. Whoever chooses to watch them. So let's mosey.
I'm here at Summer Game Fest with Final Fantasy Revelation director Naoki.
First off, I gotta give massive props to Hinano Akiyama. She is one of the translators / interpreters for Hamaguchi-san, and I just want to say, what she does is really difficult, because I've seen some people online go, "Oh, what they do is not hard. Why are we glazing her?" Translating one language to another on the fly, not easy, especially since there's not always a one-to-one direct translation from Japanese to English in this example. And she does it so quickly with pen and paper. It's pretty amazing. I'm sure that she and Hamaguchi probably have some things they go over before the interview just to kind of prep, but for the most part, she's doing this on the fly, and that's super hard. I couldn't do that. I can barely speak English as it is. That's very difficult. And she's got a really pretty smile. She's very lovely.
Naoki Hamaguchi, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate the time, and I am so incredibly excited for part 3 of my favorite adventure. Tifa Lockhart is probably one of my favorite video game characters, if not characters of all time.
Girl, same.
And in this portion of Final Fantasy VII, she kind of becomes the main character and serves as the glue that keeps the team together. Is that something that we can expect in Revelation? And, how so, if that's the case?
そうですね、もちろんティファの存在っていうのは
So I do believe that, something that's been present throughout the entire series is, Cloud being the central protagonist. And of course, he is still the main character for Revelation as well. But I do believe that players can expect within Revelation, the third title, that, Tifa and other characters will also be highlighted. And they'll all be sort of going towards this conclusion together. And so that's one, detail that is not to be missed.
Yeah, in the original FF7, when you lose Cloud, Tifa and Cid kind of become the de facto leaders, which is really cool for Cid, especially since he's technically new. In Revelation, we're going to, I think, see a lot of things through his perspective and learn way more about him, because he's going to have to step up. And it's the same with Tifa. It's a huge weight on her shoulders, but it's a really great character growth moment for Tifa. And I'm very excited to hear Britt Baron's performance in Revelation specifically, with, Tifa struggling with Cloud not being well and trying to find a way to help him, but they also have to protect the planet at the same time. But I think what they're doing in Revelation is they're probably going to spread some of that weight out to all of the characters, so we can really see what they're going through because Cloud's not there anymore. And I'm curious to see how some of the side questing for those characters actually plays out this time around compared to how it was in Rebirth. Just to see how do we learn more about them? How do they incorporate the lore of those characters? But I love Tifa. I love all the characters, but Tifa, again, is one of my favorite characters. I've said this ad nauseum, but I really relate to her as I get older. So it's cool to kind of see a character that kind of represents how you feel or think about yourself at times. That's important.
Next question is about the name. I know for a while it was mentioned that there were 2 to 3 other names that were maybe in the running to be the third part's final name. What were the other potential names, and why do you think Nomura-san decided to go with Revelation?
That's a really good question, because Maximilian Dude asked a similar question, but I don't think he asked what the other names could have been. So I don't even know if Hamaguchi can say what those names are, but I'm very curious.
そうですね。多分まあこれから各
So, we figured that once we let on that we had 2 or 3 other options, we knew that everyone wanted to ask what those were. But since we had just recently announced the Revelation title, we do want to kind of keep focused on that. And for now, maybe keep the 2 or 3 others kind of close to us. But in terms of the subtitle, for remake and Rebirth as well, that was something that our creative director Nomura-san also chose. And so for Revelation, the third title, we definitely wanted him to choose it as well. In terms of Revelation, meaning we are going to be sort of revealing and everything up to this point that the players themselves may have many questions about. It's very much aligned with my vision as well for the story, and so I think it's very fitting.
Yeah, that's I don't know if they're ever going to say what the other choices are. They might want to use those for other games for all we know. But I think Revelation might actually be my favorite subtitle of all of these games so far. I really liked Remake. Remake fit for what it was because it's like, well, it's sort of a remake, but there's the double meaning of like the twist in the story of, oh, it seems like Sephiroth is actually trying to remake things. So Remake had a bit of a double meaning. They couldn't flat out say that because it would have spoiled so much of the marketing beforehand. Rebirth was more of akin again to like Sephiroth, but Revelation is super interesting because they're saying like, yeah, we want to answer all of the questions that players have, what's been set up, but there's also the idea of revelation in regard to Sephiroth. What is he actually planning? There's like biblical aspects to Revelation and Sephiroth as well. We saw it in that trailer where you have Sephiroth floating in the sky looking like a deity. He's holding Cloud almost like he's his savior, and you've got all of those robed men reaching up because they want to grab Sephiroth, and there's that beautiful golden sky behind him. So people who are much more versed with religion, like Professor Noctis, will probably have a field day with this stuff. But it's just satisfying to know that they're going to try and answer all of the questions if possible, which is very satisfying. We don't want any loose threads hanging on here.
Next question is, we finally have Cid and Vincent as party members who we can control. We've seen some of their combat. They both look fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
What were some of the keywords when designing their combat that you wanted them to kind of evoke?
Props to the interviewer. She's got some good questions.
そうですね。まずヴィンセント。
So, of course, Vincent in the original game, he's able to transform in more specific scenes or circumstances. But we wanted to make sure to allow the players a more, degree of freedom in which they're able to transform him at different times at their own will. So he's able to transform into this beast mode, like whenever the player wants, as well as use these far range attacks. So players are able to, choose that depending on how they want to play with this character. And so in that way, one may feel that his combat style is a little similar to like Yuffie, but also very unique and different on his own. In terms of Cid,
dude, Vincent's gonna be so busted. If he's being compared to like Yuffie's like one of the most busted characters in this trilogy. That sounds very exciting. Transforming into the Galleon Beast at the press of a button is pretty amazing. I thought they would have like had that be like a limit break thing or have you build up to it. And maybe you do, because again, like looking at the UI, there is this red 1 here. Red 1, if anyone remembers that producer. And then there's like a little red dot here on his health bar. So we'll have to wait, obviously, to get more info, but just being able to transform into this thing and wreck shop at will is pretty insane.
It's a little similar to Red 13 or Nanaki in that Nanaki is a little more of a specialist in like the ground level attacks, but then Cid is sort of a complement to that, is more like aerial, in the air-based attacks that he's going to really excel at. And as we, add these new characters, and there's a lot more playable characters now, it becomes, sort of a challenge for us to determine which attacks or what types of combat each character is going to be specialized in. But I think we did a really great job of making each feel very unique and fun to play.
Yeah, Cid being the pilot, but also being like gameplay wise being the air guy is pretty cool. I like how they incorporate the story into the gameplay. So I'm really excited to try them out, but I'm also curious to see what kind of reworks the other characters get. Red 13 and Cait Sith in particular, because their gameplay was introduced in Rebirth. And when you look at remake to Rebirth, Cloud, Aerith, Tifa, Barret, specifically Cloud, got a pretty decent rework with this kit into Rebirth. So I'm curious to see how they rework Red and Cait in particular. I believe in Ever Crisis, Red 13 is more of a support healer kind of character. We also don't have a healer anymore, but there's also the fits system, which could kind of make up for that. So we proceed.
On the subject of combat, we now have almost kind of a job system in the game. And it's funny because I love a job system. It's why Final Fantasy V and Final Fantasy Tactics are some of my favorites. And so I wanted to ask, what inspired the choice to add that, especially this late into the trilogy? And were there any other Final Fantasy games you looked at for inspiration, or any certain direction that you wanted to go with that?
ここはやっぱりこのリベレーション
So on this, when this was in discussions with Endo-san, the battle director, also for Revelation, and when we were discussing, what kind of combat system we wanted for this third title, we did think that, completely omitting something and putting in something entirely new may not be, so fun for players who have really enjoyed the prior combat systems leading up to this title. And so we really, from really early on, we did want to decide on building upon the existing foundation, kind of evolving on what we have currently created. And so from that, it's not so much that we were set upon creating okay, let's make a job system, but it was more so that we looked at Cloud, characters like Cloud and Aerith, these characters that have a certain characteristic that the players are aware of. And then usually, we'll look to customize those abilities by adding on materia and such. But then for Revelation, we really wanted that ability to customize and be able to play a character as a player wishes to be a large part of the game. And that would make the experience much more fun as well. In that way, the job system is included for players to be able to take a character like Cloud, for example, who we may think of as a warrior type, but he might be able to be a black mage on top of that, and then with his action abilities, unleashes a whole dearth of possibilities.
Yeah, we went in depth with this in a video that went up earlier in the week with Automaton, where he really dives into the job system. If you guys would like to check that out, I'll leave a link to it so that way we're not repeating ourselves. But this could also be a way, again, to alleviate the loss of a character like Aerith. So I'm wondering if there's a white mage class, which really beefs up the healing factor for a character, lets them heal the entire party, maybe do greater healing. Because right now we've only seen a few classes. We've seen the warrior class for Cloud, and we've seen the black mage class for Tifa. Class for Tifa, not Klaus. And each character is going to have 4 different classes. So it's cool to see the job system. And I think that what they're doing with combat makes sense. A lot of us were thinking, triple techs, synergy limits, which could still happen. But I think, like Hamaguchi said, you're at a point with the combat system where maybe you don't want to do too much. So just adding that layer of the fit system with the jobs is probably just the right amount to make it very deep without it feeling like I don't know what I'm doing.
So to follow up with that, will all characters be able to use any of the jobs in the game?
Great question from the interviewer.
And could you also tell me a bit more about, I know we've seen Black Mage, but are there other jobs that you can talk about at this point?
She's great. She's got some good questions.
はい、
So there's going to be 4 different
Yeah.
fits, that's what we call them, that each character is going to be able to equip. And then we've introduced Black Mage and Warrior so far, and there is going to be more that we hope people will be excited for.
Can I just say too, I don't know if anyone's pointed this out, and it might just be me looking too far into this. Maybe it's just the warrior class for Cloud, but look at his attack here. This could just be a fancy particle effect that they wanted to include. But what does Cloud do at the end of Rebirth? He sticks the black materia into the Buster Sword. He hides it from the party. And one of the colors that the black materia has is like a deep red color. I'm noticing a lot of red on Cloud right now, on his legs, from his blade. It almost looks like blood to a degree. So this could just be like a fancy visual effect. They're like, yeah, let's make this attack red. Could also be something from the black materia.
And there is going to be more that we hope
These
people will be
visuals look
excited
insane.
for.
Revelation is said to be the most expansive version of Gaia that we've seen so far. So I was wondering, based off of, I guess, some of the criticism leveled at Rebirth in terms of it almost being too big and there being too much to do and too many mini games, how do you balance having this even larger world with keeping the game's momentum and the story's momentum? Was the feedback from Rebirth something that you considered when building and designing Revelation?
そうですね。まあやっぱりこうミニゲームに関して
So,
は
of course, with Rebirth, we did notice the variety of feedback that we received from players about the mini games, the types, and their quantity. So we were aware of that. And at the same time, the remake series is a sort of homage to the original Final Fantasy VII game. And so when we set upon creating Revelation, it was really never our intent to reduce or decrease the number of mini games. We were more so thinking, how can we best deliver these games to the players today within the third title? And we felt that if the mini games were optional, yet they were heavily tied to character growth, and that you would have to play them in order to let your character grow some more, it would feel less optional. And so in Revelation, we took care to kind of lighten that necessity a bit more to make it easier for players to kind of play the mini games at their own will. So it might be tied more to character skins that you can gain through playing these mini games. And so players that want to customize their characters more and are more interested in that parts of the gaming experience can feel free to engage more in the mini games. Whereas people that might want to kind of strengthen and delve more into the battle experience, we have more of it specifically tied to the battles. And so in that way, I think that's one point that's really been kind of updated and differentiated for Revelation.
And you mentioned...
Oh, that's something new. I don't know if he's talked about that in other interviews. Oh, one of the big issues people had in Rebirth is that a lot of the mini games had some really great rewards behind them, whether it was crafting materials or materia or armor or sometimes story stuff. And for a lot of people, they didn't want to have to go through those mini games because they either didn't like them or maybe they're just too difficult. So to hear Hamaguchi say, yeah, more of the cosmetic stuff are going to be the rewards possibly behind the mini games. And if you really want to grow your character and level them up, maybe get items and such, that's going to be tied to the actual combat of the game, the battles. That's a great way to do it. So for the people that are really yeah, I got to customize my fit, they'll be going crazy on the mini games, but you won't have that sense of I have to do the mini game because I really want to get the item behind it. So that's actually a cool way to kind of change the reward system without getting rid of the mini games or reducing the amount of them. It's it's if you want to customize your character, do a mini game. But if you want the character progression stuff, the growth, that's going to be through combat. That's super cool. That's very smart, and I think that's a really great balance for those mini games without completely just reducing them or deleting them. That's pretty brilliant.
Mentioned this is an homage to Final Fantasy VII, to the original game. And when I think of Revelation and what I assume will be in there, there's so many fantastic moments and set pieces. One of my favorites is the slap fight between Tifa and Scarlet. And there's just so many funny things too. So I was just wondering, what were maybe some of the moments that you were most excited to recreate in this modern engine and, to have people experience once again?
こうティファとこうスカーレットのこう
There's just so many scenes and elements that are an homage to the original that it's so hard to choose. But if I were to speak on one, I'd like to talk about the weapons. And we see some of them in the trailers that we showed yesterday. And so when you think about the weapons, you have to think about, are we going to show them at actual scale? How are we going to achieve presenting them in Revelation? And in the original, when we see them in the world map, it's just not that strange to see them at that size. But
I just gotta say, as a little kid, this freaked me out so much. You're in the sub just going around and you see this thing in the distance and I'm like, I don't know what that is. The ocean already terrifies me. Now this thing wants to kill me. And then there's moments where you're in the sub on the surface and then you deep dive and boom, Emerald's right there and you're just screwed.
When we see them in the world map, it's just not that strange to see them at that size. But when we think about the remake series, we did have to address, how best to represent them and present them in that way. And I think the way that we chose to do so will be, like a great one and fun one to experience for the players. And so I believe, the weapons is something to look out for.
Amazing. It's funny. That was something that stuck out to me so much. It was one of those things where I saw the weapons and I was like, this is exactly how I imagined them when I was a kid. So it was fantastic to see.
And what's crazy, we've only seen combat with one of the mini weapons, the baby weapon that Sherpas Tifa through the live stream. We haven't even approached combat with the big boys, Ruby, Diamond, Sapphire, Emerald. I mentioned Sapphire because Sapphire doesn't die, at least from what we can see in that trailer they teased us. In the original, it goes to blow up the sister ray and it gets boom, taken out. And this one, it's like, I've studied all your moves. And they blast it and Sapphire's like, psych. And it moves out of the way. It dodges the sister ray blast and then blows up Heidegger in the office that he's in. So that's pretty cool. The music stinger that they play there too, I also think is Sephiroth's music. And there's been some theorizing over the past year plus of what if Sephiroth is controlling the weapons? Because how else would Sapphire know, just gonna dodge my head and I'll avoid that blast, so they're setting up some cool stuff. But again, we don't even know how we're going to approach fighting the bigger weapons. We've just seen the small one with the cannons and whatnot. But again, in that interview we did earlier in the week, Hamaguchi was like, yeah, you can approach these battles how you want. You want to whack their feet, you can do it. You want to use those turrets, you can do it. There's a number of ways to approach it. Player freedom seems to be a very big thing for the developers in this game.
My final question is, with this being the last part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, does it really feel like you're saying goodbye to Final Fantasy VII, or is this something where you're hoping to revisit this again in the future? I mean, I know you probably can't talk too much about that, but does this feel like you're closing the book or just the end of this first part?
難しい質問ですね。ただ
So in terms of the FF7 remake series in itself, it does conclude with Revelation for this trilogy. Of course, we've had a lot of voices from fans, wanting to explore the stories or side stories of other characters or, other parts of the story as well. So that is something that is interesting. But we did want to, bring the sort of third and conclusion that everyone has been waiting for as soon as possible. So we really focused our efforts on bringing Revelation as soon as we can.
Amazing. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate your time. And thank you all so much for watching. I cannot wait for Final Fantasy VII Revelation.
That was a great interview. Props to the interviewer here, Jess Cogswell. I think I'm dyslexic. Jess Cogswell. That's a very interesting last name. She had some really great questions. Obviously, there's only so much Hamaguchi can talk about. And looking at the interviews that have been coming out, he's kind of hitting a lot of the same beats of exploration, weapons, the fit system, Cid and Vincent. So there's definitely going to be a roadmap to how they promote this game. And maybe a few months from now, he'll be able to expand on more stuff, more character stuff, maybe opening up some of the details on combat. So it's nice when a host like this is able to ask different questions that can give different answers from Hamaguchi that feels a little different. So props to her. I thought she did a really great job. So this was a really great video interview. Super fast too, other than me stopping. It's a less than 11-minute interview. So there's some good stuff here. I'm so excited, man. The things I'm really excited. I'm excited to get my hands on Cid and Vincent. Their gameplay just looks so sick. And in the cutscenes, man, they made Vincent so cool. He's just like badass, dude, you know? This is in the crater, I think. Yeah, here he's dirging it up. This is some Dirge of Cerberus stuff, which we just finished the Dirge finale on the channel if you guys would like to check that out too. But look, he's just schmoovin' and grooving, man. He is so stylized. And accessing that galleon beast and the press of a button is insane. That's mad work right there. And then Cid controlling the skies, doing a lot of air combos. Cid may cry. He looks super fun. And also, I did watch the video of this footage debuting at Summer Game Fest, and the pop that Sephiroth, Vincent, and Cid got was huge. It's cool to see the characters getting that kind of love. So I'm very curious too about the job system. It's just nice to kind of change up the characters, because you can't just change up their base move set from game to game and just have that feel okay. But allowing them to expand more and actually go to a different class, I think is super refreshing. Kind of reminds me of FF10, where each character has their sphere grid, but then you can transfer them onto another one. Putting Auron on Tidus's grid makes him a monster, because now he's super fast and can take down just about any enemy. Having Yuna learn black magic, Lulu learn white magic is cool. Also, people have been pointing out, and this is really cool, the character portraits. All of them are seemingly like brand new updated versions of what their character portraits were in the original FF7. From the angle to the posing, it's nearly identical. You see Cloud here. Tifa's is very close. Barrett's is a little different, but it's just from like the perspective. That's cool. The attention to detail in all of this, I think, is really lovely. Again, great video. I'll shut up because I will keep yapping if I don't stop. So again, I'll leave a link in the description down below if you'd like to check out this video. Great interviewer, great interview. We're gonna get so much more stuff on this game, especially if they decide to show it off at Tokyo Game Show, which I assume they would. TGS is not as big as Summer Game Fest or the Game Awards, but it is still a very big trade show, and it still gets a lot of attention, and it would just make sense for them to be there. Also, this is what I'm talking about with Cloud. Look at this. Does that not look Black Materia-like? Again, maybe it's just his warrior class, right? Maybe they just did that to make it look different from his base stuff, right? But I don't know, man. It looks kind of evil. Look at that. Like, he's surrounded by what kind of looks like Black Materia lighting, because that Black Materia has that red hue to it. It's evil. Because then he does like Mako blasts, but he finishes it off with that red slash attack right here. So, I don't know. That could be something, it could be nothing. But I'll go ahead and shut up because I'm going to be here all night. With that being said, that's the video. I am Curious Quarter. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below about this video, some of the questions. I guess what I would ask is, what are you most looking forward to learning more about? Is it the fit system? Is it how we're going to fight the weapons? Let me know in those comments down below. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.